Hey, what's up? Justin here. Welcome to 65 Drums, a place to keep on top of everything electronic drum related. Today I'm reviewing DrumTec Pro mesh heads. So I recently bought a full set of these. You saw my first impressions video a couple of weeks ago. I decided to actually do my full review after using it for quite a bit of time and give you my thoughts on it. Is it worth the money? Should you buy a different version? And I actually do have quite a few thoughts on this because for some people, this will literally be the best mesh head you've ever played in your life. And then for other people, this mesh head will literally be unusable. I've gotten a chance to play a lot of different kinds of mesh heads over the years. I've had these, I've played the Roland ones, I've played the Remo Silent Strokes, I've played the Pearl ones, I've played Go Edrum heads, I've played Prism, I've played Heart Dynamics, I've played ZED. I've gotten a chance to play a ton of different kinds of mesh heads. And this is literally, I'm not even making this up, I'm not exaggerating at all here. This is the best feeling mesh head I've ever played in my life. And the reason why it feels so good is because the material that makes up this mesh head is incredibly thick. I'm going to be doing some playing examples, and I'm also going to be doing some sound examples so you can see what I mean. But this is a very, very thick mesh head, thicker than any other kind of mesh head I've ever played. And it's just one ply. So it's not like 4 or 5 different plies of mesh. It's just one very thick ply of mesh. And it's got that all black look. Now this will be different for some people. Some people will love the look. Some people will hate the look. I'm kind of in the middle. I wish this was a white mesh head because I prefer the all white mesh head, at least on those blue shells back there. It does look nice. I'm not going to lie. I think it looks nice, but I prefer the all white look like their DrumTec Real Feel series, which we're going to talk about in a second. But the drum head that I can say is the closest feel to this that I've personally played. I'm sure there are other mesh heads out there somewhere, but the closest one I've ever felt that's similar to that one is the Go Edrum mesh head. I actually took a knife to one of these because I needed to know whether or not this was 1 ply or 2 ply. It's 2 plies, but they're glued together to make 1 ply. You have an incredible feeling mesh head. It's kind of pricey, but you know the good stuff costs money. The one big downside to this mesh head is that it's incredibly loud. It's very, very loud. I'll be doing some noise comparisons here in a second. But this is, without a doubt, the loudest mesh head I've ever played in my life. If you're going for a really quiet practice, you can't buy this mesh head. Now, I live in the country. I live in the middle of nowhere. My closest neighbors are like way far away, so it doesn't really matter how loud I get. I could play an acoustic drum set in here and be completely fine. It won't bother anybody. But if I lived in an apartment, these would be unusable. So you got to be careful. You can't buy these if you're going for a very low volume. This is definitely way quieter than an acoustic snare, but it is kind of loud. So let me do some noise comparisons right here so you can see what I mean. I'm going to compare this versus a 2-ply mesh head. Now, the tough thing about doing a review like this, when I'm trying to talk about noise and stuff, I can give you a dB reading, I can give you, a sound comparison from in the basement and upstairs and stuff, but really, you kind of have to play it to know what I mean. There have been people that I've talked to that said, Justin, this one feels amazing, But the noise thing, it's a deal breaker for me. That's why I can't buy this mesh head. And you know what? That's completely fine. Not every product is best for every single situation. Like, as much as I'd like, you know, a Formula One race car, I can't drive that to work, even though it's technically, it can get there faster than my Toyota. So you got to buy the tool for the, you know, for the situation that you need to use it for. If you want something that has a very similar feel to acoustic heads, this is the best I've played, and it is kind of pricey. But one of the big weaknesses, because they're not perfect, one of the big weaknesses, aside from the fact that they're loud, is the fact that they don't work with every kind of trigger extremely well. So, case in point, I found out that center-mounted triggers give you much better performance versus side-mounted triggers for these heads specifically. Now, for people that are interested in the side-mounted versus center-mounted trigger debate, in general, I prefer center-mounted triggers because, you know, the more expensive ones out there, they tend to be center mounted. The people that design these things obviously know more than us, so go for center mounted if you want to go on the high end. You know, side mounted triggers do work very well. But in this case, what I found was that whenever I used these in side mounted configurations, they were dropping hits. On my kick drum, I originally started using it with this drum head right here in side mounted configuration. I found out it was dropping a lot of hits, so I put it back on the cross beam that I have and made it a center mounted trigger. That exact same sensor performs much better when it was center mounted. These drum heads, for whatever reason, they perform better when you're using a center mounted trigger. Now, don't get me wrong, I still really enjoy using those Joe Becky triggers with these heads. It's just every once in a while, some of the hits either drop or are overly quiet. So yeah, they don't trigger perfectly. I'm still having a ton of fun with them, but if I'm going for ultimate accuracy, I've got to upgrade to center mounted triggers for those toms if I want to get the same level of accuracy as I get from my snare. My snare drum triggers pretty much flawlessly as far as I can tell, and it works incredibly well. But the toms, I have been struggling with them a little bit. Now, of course, take this all with a grain of salt. This is just one guy's experience. I could be wrong. Maybe it's just something funky happening with the triggers. I don't know. There are variables at play here. This is just my personal experience with the matter. DrumTec has 4 different types of mesh heads out there. Here's the pricing of all 4 different lines of mesh heads, and like the pros and cons of each one of their lines. To be clear, I haven't played the 3 other versions other than this DrumTec Pro Series head. I'm just giving you their descriptions of how it feels, and I've listened to sound examples of what they sound like without them being plugged into the module. The first series is called Design. It's a 2-ply mesh head. They say it's their best-selling mesh head. It gives you really good trigger results. It's quiet, long life. It's got a very strong rebound. The Real Feel 3-ply mesh head is $55.24. It's got an acoustic feel. It's got less rebound than the 2-ply series. It's got the best triggering results out of all the different mesh heads. And really important to me, you can't see through the mesh head. This is one thing I've noticed about different kinds of mesh heads that I have. Like, I have a whole stack of different kinds of mesh heads. And I really like it when I can't see the drum trigger underneath the mesh head. That's just something that I like. You know, if you have a white, acoustic drum head, you can't see through it, all right? So that's why I like, not being able to see the drum trigger. I don't want to see the guts. I just want the drum set to work and not look like it's electronic. I want a nice, clean look. The DrumTec Real Feel heads, they give you a hybrid. They give you a similar feel to acoustic. It's not going to be quite as close as this right here, but it's going to give you a similar feel, but it's going to be quieter, and it's going to give you better triggering results. And it's also going to be the most expensive. This one costs $55.24. And then the next one is the Pro Series, which is $41.74. And then the fourth kind that they have is their Basic Series. It's a 1-ply. This thing is selling by itself a 14-inch mesh head for $12.28. Now, the good and bad about this is that it's got ultra low volume. It's the quietest mesh head that they have, and it's got a very high rebound. So I'm going to guess this is just like a Remo Silent Stroke. It's going to be just like a Pearl muffle head. It sort of seems like that from all their playing examples. It's a very thin 1-ply mesh head. Each one of those heads feels very similar to other things that are out there in the market, but DrumTec just offers it as a whole line. It gives you a nice comparison to see the pros and cons of each kind of drum head. I can really vouch for this one. So I know DrumTec makes good mesh heads, but I can't tell you if any of the other 3 series are good or bad. Although I will say I've heard a lot of great stuff about the DrumTec Real Feel stuff. I know several people that have those, and they swear by them. As far as these heads go, these are the best feeling mesh heads I've ever played. I've never played the Real Feel stuff, but even some of the people I talk to, they say, even though the Real Feel line feels good, it doesn't feel quite as close to acoustic as this. And I don't want you guys to get it twisted. This doesn't feel 100% like an acoustic head, but the rebound is very, very similar. And this comes to a common problem people have with electronic drums. They feel like it's overly bouncy, and some people have said that they get used to playing electronic drums, they switch over to acoustic, and it takes them a while to transition. And I 100% agree with that. If you're playing, TD11 KV, great drum set, but if you play that for long enough, you're gonna get used to a little bit higher rebound. Even if you detune it, I find this whenever I play an acoustic drum set, I gotta play for 5-10 minutes before I, start to remember what it's like to play an acoustic drum set. I don't think I'll have that problem when I'm using these because the rebound level is very similar to acoustic rebound. When you're playing this, it's kind of hard to explain. Your stick doesn't jump right out of your hand, flying back into the air. You actually have to work at it to play as fast. Like this thing, your stick doesn't dig into it as much and it doesn't give you as much rebound. So that makes it more acoustic-like. If you're worried about losing your chops because you're switching over to an electronic drum set and you have some leeway with how much volume you can take with an electronic drum set, these mesh heads, I really do like them a lot. Now, going back to pricing for a second, I didn't buy these brand new from DrumTec. There was a while ago, I almost bought a set of real feel heads from DrumTec. I tried to order from their website, and for some reason, their website just didn't work for me. I would have had to call in and then, personally give them my credit card and stuff. Fast forward to, a year later, someone that I know said, "Hey, Justin, I tried the hybrid drum set thing out. Didn't really, work well for me. I just want to, go back to acoustic drums. I've got a set of DrumTec Pro Heads. Do you want to buy them?" And I was like, yeah, I want to buy them. So I got this whole set. I just bought one high tom, one floor tom, one kick drum, one snare. I bought all those heads for about $120. I didn't have to pay any sort of fees to be inspected going from Germany to America and stuff. So I will say one of the reasons why I'm so positive about this is the fact that I got it at a very good price, used, but they aren't beat up at all. He didn't actually play these very much. I'm gonna tell you the pricing, but it's also, you're gonna have to add import duties and stuff. There's all kinds of weird taxes that show up when you start going from country to country. But as far as the pricing for this thing, just a 14-inch mesh head, like for your snare, will cost you about $41.74. So it is a little bit pricey, more expensive than other options out there in the market. But for my particular case, I am loving the way this thing feels. The best way I can describe these mesh heads is that they're sort of like Zildjian Gen 16s or Zildjian L80s. So this isn't your standard mesh head at all. This is a low volume alternative to acoustic heads. So this is basically a Zildjian L80 except for drum heads. And it retains the feel, but it's also a little bit loud at the same time. So that's one way I look at this. I don't know, I might switch back to the Joe Becky heads when I'm playing live just so I can keep the volume a little bit lower. But at least when I'm home practicing, these are going to stay on. They feel really good, and I feel like you could also switch between this and acoustic drums a little bit faster because the rebound level is similar. Anyway, let's go to the playing examples. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in a few.